Castle's secret stars are quite frankly not at all as secretive as I'd have liked. But they still offer an extra fun challenge as effectively an eighth of the star count in Mario 64. We're in the final stretch now, 105 stars later, and we can finally run through the remaining stars to get to full completion. I genuinely thought this would be a short 5-minute segment, but I forgot how much I like to ramble on and go into barely relevant specifics. I've already done a deep dive into the hub world and the intricate little details of how a player learns to advance through Peach's castle, so I'm going to assume you remember everything I said during that segment as I move forward. If you don't, well, just go back and watch it after this. I won't be throwing in a pop quiz or anything, so you don't have to have everything I mentioned previously memorized. I'm going to go through these stars in an order that makes sense to me rather than how they're listed. After a player gets their first star, there are 2 doors they can enter in the castle. The first one obviously leads to Whomp's Fortress, but there's the second one upstairs in the corner that leads to a room with 3 Princess Peach paintings. I always assumed these were stained glass windows, but I'm not sure what is right or wrong anymore after reading people's comments throughout this retrospective. Either way, there are 3 of these paintings surrounding you, and the hope is you, as a player, will interact with the paintings until you accidentally fall into one. Up pops the first secret slide in the game. This was such a cool discovery for me, and I'm assuming for many people. The whole application of slides in Mario 64 was such a bizarre inclusion. Like today we just look back at it like, oh yeah, there were slides in Mario 64, that was a thing. But it's so out of place. And still, I'm really glad the slides were included. They're a lot of fun and the music during these bonuses make it all the better. Get through this fairly simple challenge though, and you have 106 stars. Star 107 is the secret aquarium. You'll notice 2 obscure holes up high in the wall when you enter the room for Jolly Roger Bay. One of them will grant you a 1-up and the other will take you to a bonus room. You also need to pull off a higher jump to reach those holes, which is a good early game challenge to get a player to reach a location that a regular jump can't get to. The challenge inside is pretty easy, you just need to swim around and grab the 8 red coins before you drown. Well, it's easy once you get used to the swimming controls, but I've seen people complain about how finicky it is in Mario 64. People like me. But the space is so small that I hardly find it worth complaining about even if the swimming isn't as intuitive. Funnily enough, I had a whole revelation about my hatred for water levels from the N64 area, and how it was all because of Jolly Roger Bay. But between Dire Dire Docks, Wet Dry World, and now this bonus room, I realized I didn't even hate all the water segments in this game. Although in fairness, Dire Dire Docks is super small and straightforward, this bonus room is even smaller, and Wet Dry World is as much as non-water level as it is water. Actually, it might even be more of a non-water level in general. Also, as an aside, I made a comment during the Jolly Roger Bay segment that implied that people who like that stage are being fake and pretending to be refined, and I've gotten word from a few of you that you were bothered by that statement. I do want to clarify that it was meant to be taken as a lighthearted joke. I don't think people pretend to enjoy something for the sake of being pretentious. Well, actually that's not true. I think there are a lot of people that do that all the time, but in this instance, I don't think that people that like Jolly Roger Bay are being pretentious. That was me trying to be humorous about a stage, really the only stage that I don't like in this game. And I guess I didn't deliver that humor as well as I thought. So I just wanted to throw a quick apology out there since a few of you reached out and were bothered by those comments. I genuinely mean no ill will. Star number 108 is a simple discussion with Toad outside of Hazy Maze Cave. I haven't mentioned the Toads and sides throughout the games yet, but basically they will help guide you. The reason I didn't mention them is because I never really used them as a kid. All of the moments throughout this retrospective where I mention a player will learn to do something by running into a wall and seeing it ripple, or jumping into a painting from a different height by accident in the case of Wet Dry World, or just all of the other stuff I praise in the stage developers for guiding a player without putting a text box. Well, those toads and signs are the text boxes in case you ever do need a hand. They'll tell you when the door to the upstairs is not unlocked that your key might need to be used in the basement. They'll throw up a sign next to the pillars that drain the moat around the castle to ground pound. There actually is a lot of guidance in text throughout this game, but quite frankly, I don't remember any of it, nor do I recall leaning on any of it to figure out the secrets of this game, because I think the game was designed in a manner that would guide most players through 99% of it without needing to view these texts throughout. And I think most people figured out these intricate details of the game without the toads. Like, one toad will mention if you lose your cap in a stage to go back into that stage and get your cap back. But I think most players would have figured that out without speaking to that toad. But in case they don't, that toad is there to help them out. And there's an incentive to speak to all the toads too, because you'll eventually figure out that they'll give you stars. And that'll just force you to seek out and speak to every one of them in the game and help you uncover more and more secrets throughout that you may have not picked up on yet. The toads specifically that you speak to that give you stars will also guide you towards something pretty important in the game. This one, for example, hints that there are worlds inside the walls, which is meant to help push you towards the entrance of Shifting Sandland. Star 109 is another Toad star. This one will provide you with a hint that if you notice anything in the mirror room not reflecting, then you should investigate, which is this game's way of hinting you towards the Snowman's Land entrance. So again, they tie the entrance of a hidden stage with a star-wielding Toad because they know a player will have to speak to that Toad at some point, and it amplifies its importance. Star 110 is the final Toad power star. It's outside of Tick-Tock Clock. And you guessed it, it'll provide you with a hint to watch the big hand on the clock before entering the stage. Star 111 is the MIP star. At 15 stars, if you head downstairs, MIPS will be running away. You'll have to work on your quick reaction skills in close quarters and be able to dive and grab MIPS. As I mentioned previously, MIPS was also a good means of guiding players to the hidden wall of Shifting Sandland because a player will likely run into said wall after chasing it. Star 112 is another MIPS star. This time it'll appear when a player has 50 stars. To get Star 113, you have to go through the slide again, and this time you have to complete it in under 21 seconds. From my understanding, the game developers meant to make it so that this was supposed to be done in under 20 seconds, but they somehow screwed that up? I don't remember where I read that, but I remember it being a thing. Either way, in order to get down there quick enough, you'll need to hold up on the joystick to have more speed. You'll also have to be very careful to not bump into any walls to keep the momentum. It was very challenging back in the day, even though right now I have to intentionally slow down so that I can get the timer above 21 seconds and get the first star. That being said, this is pretty obscure. It's not really that easy to figure out that the slide has 2 stars. This one is an actual secret star. Quite frankly, the only true secret star. I am fairly confident that this was the last secret star I ever collected, and it might have even been star number 120 for me. The only hint provided is a sign in the actual slide stage that mentions if you slide really fast, you'll win a star. But for most players, they probably just assume that the first star they grabbed is the one that the sign was talking about. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if I figured this one out simply by trying to beat a personal record to get down there fast enough for laughs. None of the secret stars before or after this one are remotely as obscure. But either way, it's a fun extra challenge to reward players who repeat the slide challenge to try and break their own records. Star 114 is the red-winged cap star. When you have 10 power stars, a bright light will shine down on the sun rug in the middle of the castle. You're meant to use your better judgment and stare into the bright white light. I always thought this was kind of hilarious, since you end up in the sky after that, because it used to remind me of the whole don't head towards the light thing to avoid death, and then all of a sudden Mario has wings like an angel in heavenly space. But anyway, for the longest time, I couldn't get the 8 red coins here. I say longest time, but what I really mean is between the ages of 6 and 7. I struggled. I think I used to always nosedive into the red switch and try to use the cannon to grab the coins, but it wasn't possible. Eventually I figured out you're supposed to immediately steer to the right and not try any crazy maneuvers. It's all about the tight and slow control to get the 8 red coins. Hit the red switch, pick up the star, and move on. Star 115 is hidden inside Hazy Maze Cave in the room where the green cap is unlocked. You gotta get into the cavern and head to Dory and have her drop you off near the double doors in the back of the cavern. After that, it's a quick maneuver through a short path and a new pile of goop to jump into, similar to the one you jumped into to enter Hazy Maze Cave. You'll need to use a combination of Metal Mario and simple to mildly challenging platforming maneuvers in order to collect the 8 red coins, as well as unlock the metal cap. Also, I haven't really mentioned it at all yet, but there are a lot of stages or bonus areas that'll send you back to the castle grounds in this game if you fail. This is one of them. I kinda hate these things. I'm guessing how I feel towards these forced castle exits are like what others feel towards the forced stage exits after collecting a star. But this is much worse. Even if I actually used to think these castle exits were very interesting and were a nice way to connect everything together in the game, despite them being a nuance. Star 116 is the Vanish Cap bonus room. This one is a lot of fun because it is a bit more challenging than the other cap stars. You go down a giant slide and must aim your drops downwards to the right location so you can grab the red coins on the landings. After that, you have a good amount of fun with some skill-based platforming. Going through this area is not only a fun challenge because of the red coins, even if you avoid the red coins altogether, you'll still have to carefully maneuver through the obstacle course. But trying to get the red coins does add an extra challenge and turns this from a 7 out of 10 stage to a 10 out of 10 stage for me. I really appreciate this bonus area, especially considering it's an early game platforming challenge and can provide a quick bit of struggle for even returning players. In many ways, I view the stage as a 2D transition to 3D stage because it has the feel of an over-the-shoulder classic level. But I'll get a bit deeper into that shortly when we go through the Bowser courses. Star 117 is a tough one. It's a significantly more advanced version of the Red Cap Star stage. There are rainbows and clouds and cannons all around, and Mario has to blast off and collect 8 red coins. There's an element of problem solving in addition to the requirement of comfortably controlling Mario in flight. You'll have to know how to utilize poles and cannons to reach all of the red coins. It's definitely a fun one, for me at least, but it is frustrating that a loss here will take you back to the castle grounds because that's a very long journey back up to the top of the castle. Also, I like that the entrance to this stage sits opposite to Rainbow Ride. It makes it feel just as important as that stage and Tick-Tock Clock when it comes to the final stage difficulty spikes, because that's in effect what this is. Star 118 is the stage of the first Bowser battle. So first off, these Bowser stages are basically what I think this game would have been if Nintendo decided to go straight into the 3D land/world approach rather than open world collectathons. Perhaps this is what all of the stages would have looked like if the developers weren't limited on memory during development, and you just have 100 of these rather than open worlds with 7 objectives each. I've discussed the linear courses in depth already, but those stages are mostly made linear by having some form of an upwards trajectory that you're meant to climb. The linearity there is hidden in what is disguised as a vertical open world stage. On the other hand, the Bowser stages are almost what you'd get if you turned a 2D Mario stage to be behind Mario's back a la Super Paper Mario. Obviously, the aesthetic isn't there, but this is a pure platforming challenge and an homage to the 2D games, made even more symbolic by ending off with a Bowser fight and having that sinister Bowser music. Genuinely, I always viewed these stages as the developers attempting at transitioning the Bowser stages from the classics into 3D, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the design elements from these stages were initially planned for main stages in the game, but they figured the design itself would be antithetical to the open sandbox theme throughout the game. Hence why the actual linear stages we got like Tall Mountain and the like were transitioned into vertical stages to keep cohesion between start and endpoints. Either way, the stage isn't the ultimate test, but it is a test. You'll have to comfortably get around to the end of the stage without falling off, whether due to a misplaced jump or a reaction to an enemy. There's lots of fun to be had in the Bowser stages though if you're good at controlling Mario. It makes me feel like I'm in the Mushroom Kingdom or playing a tunnel-style platformer like Crash or Sonic from the low poly era. The actual bonus star is the collection of the red coins on your way to Bowser, which again just feels like a typical collectible in a linear platform. They're hidden in some not so obscure locations that you'll have to use an extra amount of skill to get to. Not to harp, but I genuinely think these stages and their focused linear platform challenges would have made for an awesome early 3D platformer. And these type of stage challenges somewhat return and are lauded in Mario Sunshine 2. Watch this space because I may or may not be covering that game soon. Either that one or 64DS. But anyway, his fight is simple in theory. You grab his tail, rotate your joystick, and launch him into one of the explosives on the outside. In practice, well, it takes a bunch of practice to get used to. I used to do 2 or 3 short throws in a row just to get him close enough to the mine, and then it's usually pretty easy after that. I think you can also slowly mash the button and he'll keep shifting forward. It's just one of those things you have to get a grip on. He'll have a few different attacks related to fire breathing and charges. Also, you have to be careful because if you miss the mines, he'll fly back onto the stage and do more damage. My dude can jump. Star 119 is Bowser in the Fire Red Sea, aka the second Bowser fight in the basement. Same idea. Linear stage. It feels like a transition from 2D to 3D. 8 red coins along your route will give you that star. The big difference here in this stage is that the lava will stop you from falling to your doom by burning your butt back onto the platform. And you can even manipulate the burns while Mario flings into the air to skip different challenges. The stage is an uptick in difficulty from the last one. The main gimmick, aside from all of the burning, is the stage expands and retracts like an accordion vertically, so you'll have to work with the stage as you make your way upwards. And just like the stage, the boss fight is also an uptick in difficulty. It's almost the same fight, but Bowser will also jump on the edge of the platform and really mess with your depth perception. I always liked how epic it looked when he did that too. Really added some oomph to the visuals. I also thought it was really cool that if you fall off the stage, Mario still technically bounces around and burns until his health is all gone. You're doing this battle over an ocean of lava, even though you can't escape it if you fall down. Either way, the fight more or less plays out the same way, minus Bowser's few extra attacks and the red backdrop. Hit a mine, and Bowser's done for. And that takes us straight to star number 120, Bowser in the Sky, specifically the 8 red coins. This one takes all of the difficulty from the first 2 stages and just amps it up. Red coins are in even more difficult areas to reach. There are a lot more ways to fall, a lot more enemies to ruin your day, and a lot more ways that a player will have to start the red coin collection all over again. It's the ultimate linear test in the game. And again, the red coins along the path are no different than the random MacGuffins you'd have to collect in any of the 2D games or 3D Land and World. Except this whole thing is a lot less forgiving because you have to grab all of these collectibles in a single life. There is a lifeline. A single 1-up sits outside of the Bowser fight, which effectively allows players unlimited lives for this challenging fight. And kudos to the devs for that because this fight will most certainly cause at least one game over otherwise. And to ramp up the difficulty, Bowser will take 3 hits this time. He'll have more attacks, and he'll have body paint left over from the rave he attended. But the actual hard part of this is that he removes the segments of the stage that lead up to the mines. And oh man, did they get me with this one. I hated them for it. Like, the only way a kid could cheese the previous fights was to go for the slow and steady short throws. But just like with so many other moments in this game, you eventually have to get to a point along the adventure where you have to learn how to master an aspect of the game if you want to move forward. The same way you had to master the running, the platforming, the swimming, the wall kicks, the puzzles, the exploration, the surfing, the surviving, the pole jumping, the obscure stage entrances, more puzzles, more platforms, more exploration, more determination, and more mastering. You have to do what the game demands of you. Spin those damn joysticks, time those damn A presses, and so longe the hell out of Bowser.